Now, Donald Trump actually just made a very terrifying statement.
Very sad situation, but 32,000 people were killed over a relatively short period of time. They were going to hang.
So he confirmed that there were 32,000 people killed in Iran in regards to protesting against this Islamic regime that has been occupying them for the last 46 years. And apparently, Donald Trump confirms that 32,000 died, which means, for the record, more civilians died in Iran than in Gaza. That is a real fact at this point, and no one cares. No one cares. The media doesn't care. The leftists don't care. The protesters don't care. No one cares because, we saw who killed them. So anyway, Tucker Carlson has been recently doing shameless pro-Islam propaganda constantly, and it's very scary. I'm not going to lie. It's very, very scary because this dude was pretty anti-radical Islam when he was on Fox News, but now suddenly he's incredibly pro-Islam. So this was a crazy video.
What? Are you an Islamist? Qatar?
I don't know what that means to be an ally.
How about Qatar? What if Qatar was our closest ally? Qatar is like one of our closest allies in the world. They're a close ally of ours. A glimpse.
They have slaves, by the way. They don't let Christians be citizens in Qatar.
Of what the future holds, because that's what you see when you go.
What about Jews? Oh, they kill Jews.
To the Gulf.
But because of its scale, its significance in Islam, the 6 GCC nations, of course we should be closely allied with all 6 of these countries, and I know that they're constantly fighting with each other.
Qataris, they have become a base for the leadership of the Muslim Brotherhood. The Qataris harbor and shelter terrorists. That's not acceptable.
There's the American perspective, which is we align with countries that share our values.
Every one of those countries,
like Qatar,
is an Islamic state. Islam is the official religion of the country. He's like, you know what Islam means? Submission. I don't think I'm against that. And so in all of those countries, it's probably a bad idea, illegal, if not unacceptable, or some variety of the two, to run around trying to convert people to, say, Christianity, because this is an Islamic country. By the way, the same thing is true in Israel.
That's a very, very big...
That's not even true! What are you talking about? There are tons of missionaries in Israel.
Across all the Islamic world, in Egypt and Qatar, we had what you call blasphemy laws, which means if you ever dare to proclaim the name of Jesus in the public square, if you preach the Bible in the streets of the nation, if you dare to critique Islam or Muhammad, you will go to jail at least for 5 years and get tortured or die.
But if the deeper question is, where do Christians feel more comfortable? There are twice as many Christians living in Qatar as there are in Israel.
Qatar is way bigger, and also the Christians in Qatar are not citizens. They're not citizens because you're not allowed to be a citizen of Qatar if you're not a Muslim.
Did you know that?
Tucker isn't going to tell you is that Qatar's entire population is less than 3 million people, and only 10 to 15% of that population are Qatari citizens, meaning that 85 to 90% of the country is made up of foreign migrant workers.
Yeah.
And of those migrant workers,
they're slaves. Foreign migrant workers are slaves.
Large share of them come from countries like the Philippines, India, parts of Africa, and Eastern Europe, which are all heavily Christian populations. Qatar just imports hundreds of thousands of foreign workers, and many of those workers happen to be Christian because they come from Christian-populated areas.
There's so much falseness about Qatar.
2022 Men's FIFA World Cup kicks off this week. Human rights group Amnesty International says that the construction for the tournament led to the deaths of more than 1,000 migrant workers.
They import thousands of slaves and they die during slave labor. And then bro is like, but the Christian population is so big. And the Christian population is slaves that they imported from the Philippines.
They claim that workers were involved in a coercive system that forbade changing professions, involved dangerous working conditions, and required operating in extremely high heat.
Why are we being told Qatar is so bad?
You can tell when you go to a place like Abu Dhabi or Riyadh, oh man, I hope we don't ever wind up with a society like this.
Yes! Because rape is legal! Dude, I can't do it. I'm literally, I can't do it. I can't do it. You keep forgetting the one rule.
Stop raping, sir.
Just stop raping, sir. Who the fuck is this guy over here? Nux Taku's favorite post. Get the hell out of here. How do you even find this tweet? But what are we doing?
With a rape rate of 0, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
A rape rate is 0 because they just don't consider it rape.
Oh boy, I hope we don't wind up with that. Sharia law.
Well, in
Sharia law.
Whatever it's worth, a pretty fervent Christian, and I feel completely comfortable here in the seat of Islam. Not because
Wow! They invited you to do propaganda and you feel comfortable.
right. I mean, and why is that?
I have more in common
Because you do propaganda for them.
with the sincerely religious Pakistani cab driver. Pakistanis are all super nice to me, and the whites are all kind of craven and sad.
Bro has more in common with Pakistani cab drivers than white people. Holy shit.
Again, not promoting Qatar, just saying. Again, not promoting Qatar. I'm not moving there.
I am, however, tomorrow buying the place in Qatar. I like it here a lot.
Oh my god! So yeah, it's honestly painful. This dude became a caricature of himself. Now, he just did an interview with Mike Huckabee. All right, Mike Huckabee is the American ambassador in Israel. So I covered this in a previous video when I was talking about Iran, that Tucker Carlson Tucker Smolletted his entire trip to Israel, where he made believe he was detained in the airport, and the U.S. Embassy said Tucker Carlson lied. He was not detained in the airport. All right, so which is pretty insane. So anyway, this is wild. So this dude, all right, shows up to do an interview with this Mike Huckabee fellow, and the craziest thing I've ever seen is that he just calls him out on like hundreds of lies. He just lies 100 times in this one interview. I don't know what happened to him. All right, so these are two clips from the same interview.
Let me get to the nub of the question, since again, a lot is at stake, a lot of money is at stake. Land is very valuable. Israel has a lot of resources. We have a huge country. This is a country the size of New Jersey with no resources. Israel has a lot of resources, no resources.
So, like, in one interview, he will talk about how Israel has lots of resources, and then in the same interview, he'll talk about how Israel has no resources. Like, this is the level of hypocrisy that we've been, like, constantly seeing, and it's honestly insane. It's honestly terrifying, and I could show you, like, a whole lot of them. A whole lot of clips where he just, like, purely lies. Like, here, this one I think is one of the craziest things I've ever seen, probably in my life. This is Tucker Carlson defending Hamas using child soldiers.
I wish that none of those people in Gaza had been killed after October the 8th. Well, I say not none of them. I'm glad Mohammed Sinwar was killed. I'm glad that some of those warriors, the people who masterminded and carried out the atrocities of October 7th.
14-year-old Hamas operatives, how do you feel about their deaths?
You mean 14-year-old terrorists with machine guns that are shooting at civilians and raping people? Like, you really think that's a gotcha? He's like, you can't kill them because they're small. You know, if 14-year-olds are shooting people with machine guns, then they're dangerous too. It's unfortunate that they were brainwashed, but what is going on?
If they participated in that, then God help them. I'm telling you,
What does
Tucker,
that mean, God help
I don't
them?
know that
Are you happy
they were
that-
14 years. No, but I'm telling you that when someone commits the acts of atrocity and then they hold hostages, if these were your children being held hostage in Gaza, what would you do to get them out?
I wouldn't want to kill 14-year-olds. I'll tell you that.
Let me ask.
Wait, so this guy is straight up saying if you have child soldiers, you should just let them straight up rape and murder and capture your family and do nothing about it because they're 14? Again, this is the level of retard we're dealing with. This dude is straight up not only endorsing child soldiers, but he's saying that child soldiers is a hyper-advanced military tactic because then you just can't do anything. What? Huh? Tucker Carlson, what is happening?
Ask you something. Would you do whatever it took to get your kids back if they were being tortured, raped, starved,
I would
and
not
beaten?
kill children, period.
Well, I'm just telling you.
And I
that
would
you
never make
do-
excuses for killing
but you
children
wouldn't-
either.
And I'm not talking about targeting children. I'm talking
You
about.
told me that 14-year-olds deserve to die because they were working for Hamas.
I'm telling
And
you.
my question is, can you
You
hear
didn't
yourself?
even say that.
I do hear myself.
So do you think a 14-year-old child has agency? Do you think that he deserves to die because he's being used by adults? Isn't his death
If he's shooting at you, yeah. If he's shooting at you, you kill him first. That's what it says in the Bible.
a crushing
If
tragedy?
he's holding a gun and he's pointing it at someone who's trying to save a hostage, and the only way to save that hostage, I'm telling you, war is a horrible thing. It's a horrible thing, and a lot of innocent
I think I'm the
people
one
die,
who thinks war is a
and
horrible thing.
No. I think what you don't
I'm
understand.
trying to explain how horrible it is, and you're
Yeah, they started the war. They're the terrorists are the bad guys. This is unbelievable.
saying that the 14-year-old deserved to die.
And again, and this was clipped by Tucker Carlson himself. He thought this was such a good take of his. Like, he thinks that if a 14-year-old has a machine gun shooting at you, you're not allowed to fire back because it's a child with no agency, which is the most unbelievable thing I've ever heard in my entire life. It really is. Like, this dude he's like an actual baby trying to get emotional clip farming, and it's unreal, right? Like, I couldn't even believe what I was looking at.
You interviewed Tony Aguilar, who claimed that IDF soldiers killed a little boy in his presence. That didn't happen.
Okay.
It did not happen. Tony Aguilar is a liar.
He's standing there, and I put my arm on his left shoulder, and I look at him, and I can feel the bones in his shoulder. I can feel the weakness in his arm. I can feel the vulnerability. I can feel the desperation. And I look at him, and I got down on my knees, or I'm looking at him in the eyes, and then I say to him, I said, people care. America cares. You're not going to be forgotten. People in the world care. And he doesn't speak English, and I don't speak Arabic. But the connection we had in looking at each other, he felt like...
Wow, that's beautiful.
He felt for the first time in a long time that there was someone that cared.
Wow.
And I got down on a knee, and he came to his level, and the items he had in his hand...
Bro should have cared harder, I guess.
He sets them down on the ground, and he raises his hands.
This is all just emotional blackmail. This is the entire segment.
And they're small, fragile. You can see bones sticking, just the bones through the skin.
Bones sticking out.
And he places his hands on my face, and he kissed me.
Wow.
And he looked at me in the eyes, and he says, "Thank you."
And then
he said it in English. "Thank you."
Right, the Gazan child who doesn't speak English said "thank you" in English, even though he didn't understand. Right. Unbelievable. Now, that was what was told on Tucker Carlson. And this is what actually happened.
This little young man here, obviously pretty young, he has food.
This young man, he's young, he has food.
Go home.
Go home.
Thank you.
The guy lied about something that there was footage about. That was it. No wholesome, touching each other's faces and sticking their tongue down each other's throats, or whatever the fuck he was talking about. None of that happened. Literally none of that happened.
He was fired from the GHF for cause, and he begged for his job back, and they wouldn't give it back because they didn't want him. And he told them that if they didn't give his job back, that he would burn them down.
Okay.
So he goes out. No, let me finish this because it's important for you to understand.
Right.
So this guy then goes out and makes up this story that he witnessed IDF soldiers shooting a little boy.
Amir didn't make it home. He walked 12 kilometers to get some food, picked up scraps off the ground, because that's all that was left.
By the way, in the actual video, bro was holding bags of food.
Because the 8-minute mayhem took all of the food, and by the time he got there, walking with no shoes, hungry and tired, the only thing left for him was to pick up some remnants off the ground. And when he left, he was killed by the IDF.
I don't know that he made it up. He seemed to believe it to me. It's possible he's wrong. I've been wrong many times.
Well, this is a little bit more than just missing a fact. He claimed to be an eyewitness to the murder of a little boy. Okay. A little boy that a week later we found.
Oh my God! The twist! The twist!
The boy is alive and safe.
Oh my God!
Falsely identified as Amir by Mr. Aguilar.
Unbelievable!
His real name is Abdul Rahim Muhammad Hamdan.
And you're sure it's the same little boy?
We're absolutely certain.
How do you know that?
Because we had pictures of him.
How did you know?
We had descriptions of him. We know his name. We know his mother.
Okay.
He was extricated out of Gaza. It was a very delicate situation to get him out because if Hamas had found out that he was still alive, they would have killed him in order to validate Aguilar's story.
That publicity placed
unbelievable
the child squarely in the crosshairs of Hamas, who have benefited greatly from Mr. Aguilar's lies and the media amplifying them. An alive, healthy boy doesn't serve Hamas. It directly threatens them.
Yeah, so anyway, this is unbelievable. Tucker Carlson is just straight up an operative of Islamic terrorism. That's what it seems to me. That's my opinion, not trying to make any allegation, but that's what it looks like. All right, and Tucker Carlson did a lot of other things, blaming Israel for the war in Iraq, which is wild, especially because everyone knows that Israel actually warned against the war of Iraq. Israel actually said at the time, Chief of Staff, former Secretary of the State reveals that large number of senior Israeli officials warned the Bush administration an invasion of Iraq would be destabilizing to the region. The Israelis were telling us Iraq is not the enemy, Iran is the enemy. That's what Israel was saying back in the day, a long time ago, in 2007. All right, but anyway, Tucker Carlson doesn't care. He'll push the other narrative. Interestingly enough. All right, now this one's crazy. He's mad that Christians are discriminated because they need visas to enter Israel. Well, newsflash, bucko, everyone needs visas to enter Israel. All right, tell people to stop being terrorists and you won't need visas. Are you insane? They're discriminating against Christians because they need visas. Are you insane? Everyone needs a visa. Jews need visas. All right, and you keep getting these.
How many people live in Iran, by the way?
I don't know the population.
At all?
No, I don't know the population.
You don't know the population of the country you seek to topple?
How many people live in Iran?
92 million.
Okay. Yeah,
how could you not know that?
I'll tell you where.
All right, that was his big gotcha question on Ted Cruz. You don't know the exact number of people in Iran, then how could you have any form of geopolitical opinion? All right, that's what he said back then. Well, that came to bite him in the ass.
Where Christians are not doing very well, they're not doing very well in the Muslim-controlled countries. There's almost no Christians in Qatar, for example, except those who live in the Christian ghetto, who are the service workers.
I'm sorry. Look, I don't want to argue with you. There are many more Christians in Qatar than there are in Israel.
How many?
Now you caught me. I don't know. I can look at my phone, but I was just there. And there are many more. Whatever.
Destroyed! Yeah. So he's like, oh, but there are double the amount of Christians in Qatar, and they're all slaves. Anyway, that's pretty awesome stuff in general. Right? Tucker Carlson says that every Jew needs a DNA test to prove that he descends from Abraham. Oh, that's great, because I have Abraham's toenail clippings in the other room, and we'll just base my DNA against the Abraham toenail DNA that I have in the other room. Absolutely. Great job. Great job, Tucker Carlson. Unbelievable stuff. Now, the craziest part of all this is he actually accused the Israeli president of being a pedophile, all right, in this 2-hour and 40-minute long interview, all right? This is the little clip of him accusing the Israeli president of being a pedophile.
So the current president of Israel, current president, who I know you know, President Herzog,
know him very well,
apparently was at Pedo Island. That's what it says in the disclosures. And of course, we know that the former prime minister, Ehud Barak, was living on and off at Epstein's house. So still living high-level Israeli officials are directly implicated in Epstein's life, if not his crime. So I would think that you'd be following this.
Only, I was not aware that there was any connection with President Herzog. I would be surprised to hear that, and knew there was about the former prime minister, who apparently had a lot of dealings with Epstein.
Business dealings, and by the way, I'm not alleging anything, but
so
I mean,
Ehud Barak, former prime minister, the leftist prime minister of Israel, he actually had a lot of connections with Epstein, but there's zero evidence that Herzog, the current president of Israel, had anything to do with Epstein.
It's in the Epstein files, and I don't know that I've heard the current president of Israel respond to it, but he
didn't even respond.
Listed as a visitor to Pedo Island, so that's kind of a big deal. I wonder.
Right, so he's not even saying this is like an allegation. He's like, he is listed as a visitor to Pedo Island. Direct quote from Tucker Carlson. Well, if you watch the current Tucker Carlson interview, you will notice that this clip is not there anymore, right? Even though Tucker Carlson said he doesn't censor things, he actually deleted 2 minutes of accusing the current Israeli president of being a pedophile. He actually removed that from his original interview. My opinion is because they threatened to sue the shit out of him, and all Jews have lawyer cousins that are more than happy to pick up the... Dude, do you know how many Jewish lawyers there are that would literally sue the shit out of this guy on behalf of the president of Israel being called a pedophile? Are you insane? So anyway, Tucker Carlson released an entire apology video saying, wah, wah, please don't sue me.
When I interviewed Ambassador Mike Huckabee in Israel the other day, I asked him about the Epstein files, specifically about an email the Department of Justice released from December of 2014 from Jeffrey Epstein to his friend Leon Black, inviting him to his now famous island in the Caribbean. And in that email, he says lots of other people are coming, among them, quote, Herzog and Ehud Barak. And so
that is an email from a random fucker that said that. Not evidence of anything, by the way.
Asked Huckabee, were you aware that this email suggests...
No, that's not what he said.
...that the current president of Israel, Isaac Herzog, went to Epstein's Island?
That's not what he said. He didn't say, are you aware that this email makes an allegation? No, he said, are you aware that he was on Pedo Island?
And Huckabee said, no, he wasn't.
Awkward.
And I asked him about it again. So at the time I said that, there had been news items about this. In fact, there was a protest against Herzog on the basis of this email when he went to Australia recently, and he hadn't responded to any of that.
A protest?
Well, now we've received a long letter from President Herzog's office denying that he went to Epstein's Island. In fact, denying unequivocally that he had any contact with Epstein ever. They didn't know each other. They never emailed with each other, never been in the same room. They had no relationship of any kind. I've gotten a lot of letters like this over the years from people alleging, oh, you got it wrong, but rarely do you get a denial this unequivocal. And so for that reason, we are taking it seriously. There's nothing worse than impugning the reputation of an innocent man.
Yeah.
And so I just want to say clearly, I'm sorry to imply that I knew something I didn't know. Of course, I don't know that Isaac Herzog was on the island. I was referring to that email and the protest against him, but I don't know that, and I didn't mean to suggest that I do know that. And I also wanted to air his side of this. Again, President Herzog says he's never had any contact with Epstein ever. And so I just want to say that in the interest of honest...
And this guy has zero evidence, all right? So, like, both sides of the story. One side where the guy's like, yeah, I never knew the guy. And the other side, which is Tucker Carlson, some random reporter guy like, who made up a story. All right, pretty insane stuff. Honestly, that might be one of the worst things I've ever seen in my life. So anyway, bro's scared that he's either going to sue the shit out of him. He made this whole make believe that he was detained in the airport, which never happened. But anyway, it's honestly insane stuff. So anywho, in my opinion, Tucker Carlson might have become one of the most discredited people in American commentary space in general. Like from the fact that this dude went from Fox News host, anti-radical Islam to radical pro-Islam is fucking insane.